So the Corpse boss is the second boss in Gears Tactics. It isn't any fun. It's a lot harder than the first one. It's not as much of a grind as it's just pretty savage all the way through, and it does change in the tactics you need to use quite frequently. Now, the squad that I've got was fine. I can't actually, if I'm honest with you, remember if you had to pick this squad, but you absolutely need a sniper with some decent perks that do some high damage. And you definitely need a healer, so you'll have to take Gabe anyway, and so that one will be really useful. The rest of it just comes down to positioning, and a lot of those tactics don't really follow how the game kind of plays normally. There's not as much of the flanking tactics. So what I found out to be really useful is to keep your squad together, especially because the area of attack can only attack in one particular position. You don't get squads split off into different sections, and by positioning yourself on one side of the map, it means that his attack, which is a long straight line of area of attack, at least at this point, will appear on either across your squad, so you can just move it left or right of it and put the enemies on the other side, or it'll appear just in the middle or somewhere. So either way, it's not too much of a hassle. The proximity mines that go down as well, I don't know how random they are. They do seem to cluster in certain positions, I think, so they're really useful for just allowing enemies to just get blown up by them, basically. They kind of shut off access routes to you in the map, and it does make things a lot easier, those coming down, so they actually help you instead of really to your detriment. Sometimes they might block off little access routes that you need to get through, but it's never too much of a problem. Once you've got your squad over to the left and you've dealt with the emergence hole and the enemies that are over there, it's pretty much like more about safety, taking down the initial waves that appear. Taking down these initial waves and getting yourself back into the middle where you can attack the corpse from is probably the main strategy that I found to work here. If you get any emergence holes opening, don't forget you can put proximity mines down next to them and move away, and that will pretty much wipe out the first wave that jumps out of them, and then you can clear them with your grenades. I said proximity mines, but they're grenades, aren't they? You can clear them out with your grenades afterwards, so it saves you using Overwatch and additional action points. Once you're in the middle and you've kind of cleared the area, bear in mind that safety is the most important part in this, keeping your gears healthy and not getting them battered from the area of effect attacks. You'll get a moment when the corpse opens up. It took me about 10 minutes before I found a nice opening, and you can pretty much unload and take him down in one turn or a turn if you've done a little bit of damage before that. So it's mainly about safety and positioning, but I do recommend going across the left and fighting the enemies that come from the right hand side once you've cleared out the left, and then moving yourself back across. And the area of attack is just nothing more than an annoyance at this point, because you only get one per go, whereas in the later sections you get multiple, and it will take out enemies as well, so you can use that in the middle section. When you finish the first one, you want to try and make sure that you finish in the middle, and every time that I've played it from the second checkpoint onwards, the enemies start to spawn in from the right, and I got a emergence hole at the back, and I got some enemies dropped off in the front right, so the top right of the screen. I've never seen it do anything different, so it pretty much seems to be the case every single time. Okay, we'll go on to the second section now. So the second section is arguably the most difficult part. You do get a checkpoint before this, so it gives you a chance to kind of practice and get used to it. But what you'll find is you'll get emergence holes and you'll get grubs dropped in, usually on the right hand side at this point. If you've positioned where I suggested, or you managed to do that, then you'll probably find that you'll be able to put down some proximity mines or throw mines and put some not covering fire, put some Overwatch onto the areas as well, so you'll be able to shut those down pretty quickly. You'll have a boomer show up, which can be a bit irritating, but again, the first thing you want to do is to survive the opening part of the wave. This is the most difficult. This one you need to be a little bit more aggressive than you would with your safety, so I would share that out between the corpse and the enemies that are attacking you. Don't rush in to attack the other enemies that appear, but make sure that you're not compromising the safety of any of your gears. Obviously the first priority will be to get out of any of the red lines, which there are now 2 red attack zones that he can put down, as well as the mines. These red attack zones actually help you more than you think. If you try and position your gears together, usually around the middle, you can either slip inside the middle of the zone or you can slip around the edges without too many problems, and that will pretty much clear out a lot of the grubs. So think about not wasting shots if you can, depending on where they're positioned, because that will take a lot down. And once you get the mines in as well, that will help you a lot. So on this point, I would say it's probably a 25% towards protecting your own gears and being defensive, and 75% attacking the corpse whenever it's open, just laying into it as much as possible. With the emergence holes, again, it's still pretty useful to put down proximity mines and to, as well as throw in the mines, because then essentially you get 2 for 1, and keeping your gears together can make that useful. But once the corpse starts chucking things out, that helps a lot as well. It's also worth keeping a sniper with some good perks right at the back of the map, because the sniper can pick off any enemies that are starting to close in on you, but also the sniper really tears the corpse to pieces. I'd probably only recommend one sniper unless you're particularly good with them though, because there's a lot of simple weaker enemies that it's a bit of a waste to shoot with a sniper rifle, and you need a few more action points. That should bring you to the end of this section. It is tough at the beginning, but you will get to restart the checkpoint, and then onto the third section, which is, I'll probably say, more difficult again, unless you have a decent strategy for that one too. So the third section of the corpse is absolutely savage really compared to the earlier ones. You have to absolutely rip it straight away, because otherwise it'll just dominate you. If you've not got yourself into a good position at the end of the second section, it can become a little bit insurmountable, this one, and sometimes it's even worth going back to the opening checkpoint and trying to work on your finish for the second section, which is kind of a bit frustrating, but it's really important you get the right positioning at the end of the first checkpoint as much as you can. It predictably gets 3 areas of attack now, as well as the mines, so this one becomes significantly more aggressive. What that does help you with though is it will help to drop the majority of the enemies that come and attack you, because there's just too much area that's being covered by its attack. The main strategy on this one is to just attack it every single second and every single go that you have. You're not actually attacking the corpse itself in this one, you're attacking the crane above. So the faster you can get that to drop, the quicker you'll get out of this. This one gets really difficult with the enemy numbers and the zones, so you want to try and do it within the first couple of goes if you possibly can. As I say, it's about 90 to 100% attacking the corpse, and then any other common sense kind of movements and getting out of the way that will help you a lot to do that. But if you aren't using up as many action points as possible to take down that crane, you'll probably fail this section. It should pretty much be over in about 2 minutes max, this one. As I said before, if you do have a bit of a nightmare, it can be worth going back to the original start of the mission just to get yourself into a better position at the end of checkpoint 2. So it is really worth taking your time at the end of checkpoint 2 to think about whether or not you're happy with where they are. And where you can see my gears positioned is probably the optimum position in this, because it just gives you more room to move, and the mines can kind of close off either side of the map, which is actually quite beneficial for you. But as I say, just lay into it and you should have it. This is the hardest but also the easiest section if you follow that strategy, and don't worry about having to kill any of the enemies unless they're imminently going to attack you, because A, they're not as bad as the corpse's attack, but also as soon as you kill the corpse, the mission ends and you don't have to deal with any of the leftover ones, so you can pretty much use your last action point to take the corpse down and forget about the enemies surrounding you. Anyway, I hope that helps. This one did take me a little bit of time to figure out. It is kind of frustrating, especially on the harder difficulties, but it's definitely doable.
All right. Target eliminated.